welcome to another A Fresh Perspective broadcast with your favorite conservatarian, Jeff Charles, and I've got a very special guest today. She hails from Arlington, Texas, probably about 2 hours away from me. And she is running for mayor of Arlington, Texas. I give you Doni the Don, Doni Anthony. What's good?
Hey guys, what's up?
So glad to have you here. I've been kind of a low key, watching what you're doing on social media, stuff like that. And the main reason I wanted to interview you is because, like me, you have two first names, and I think people with two first names have to stick together. So I'm glad to have you here. We're going to talk about your campaign. We're going to talk about policy and all kinds of other crap. But first, I want to know, who is Doni Anthony?
So hey guys, I'm Doni Anthony, and I'm originally from Indiana. I moved in Texas in 2008. My family moved to Arlington, Texas in 2007, and I came down for Thanksgiving, and I was sold. So June 18th of 2008, I moved to Texas. So I didn't take very long to get here. And I'm a salesperson. I was in the service industry at first, and then I moved to sales. And when you're in sales, you get commission and you want to keep more of your paycheck. So, I've been working since I was 16 years old, and I got my first paycheck, and I was like, Mom and Dad, something's wrong. And they're like, what's wrong? I go, they took too much of my money. And they go, that's normal, that's taxes. I'm like, but where do they spend my money at? Because this is my money, like I want to keep more of it. So I started watching politicians who were talking about spending more of our money, which means your taxes are going to go up. And I, obviously leaned more right my entire life. But I didn't start really getting more active until more recently. I've been sitting back and watching and not liking anyone really who was running for office because they didn't really represent me. And then we had Trump. And I was like, he represents me. And they're like, he's racist. I'm like, well, he didn't say he was going to lower taxes for white people. He didn't say it was just for white people. So I supported him. And then everything happened last year. And I'm like, well, I co-lead two different conservative groups in the DFW area. I've been to rallies. I've spoken at multiple rallies. I was helping other people who were running for office for the November election. And I'm like, it wasn't good enough. So I'm like, what can I do? What else can I do? So I was looking and seeing what local positions were coming up, because at the local level, I feel like it doesn't get enough attention. And we really need to focus on that. So I looked, and then lo and behold, the mayor race was available. So I was considering it. I told people in my group and everything, my family, my friends, I was considering it. And I saw that the mayor only made $250 a month. And during this time frame, I was getting a nudge. Look at the book of Esther. Look at the book of Esther. The book of Esther, long story short, she risked her life and saved her people. So I felt like it was a calling from God for me to run for office, regardless if it's $250 a month. I feel like I was defying him if I don't do it. And here we are today. I've been out here campaigning and talking to people and businesses. I haven't posted all my talking points because I know they're watching, and I know that they've been repeating things I say before we get to forums. So there's a lot of cool news coming about everything I've been learning, talking to people.
Good. So anybody who's watching this, you're talking about the importance of local politics. Anybody who's watching this knows that you're speaking my language right now. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you. So I want to talk about that, but I kind of want to go back, because you're originally from Indiana, and you decided to come to Texas. It didn't take you very long. What was it that sold you?
Arlington, actually. The first city I visited was Arlington. Number one thing, no state taxes. My paycheck was bigger, so federal stuff came out of my paycheck opposed to state, local, county, city taxes. That really sold me. And the people are way different than my home area. So do you know Muncie, Indiana, where Ball State is?
No, I've never been to Indiana.
Okay, so that's the area I came from. I grew up in the country. My neighbors were cornfields, bean fields. I could smell a pig farm. So I grew up in the boonies. So that was a big thing for me. I keep more of my money. There's more opportunities down here. And the people were really, really nice.
Gotcha. Okay. And so you you spend a lot of time in Arlington, obviously. So you mentioned that you run different conservative groups. What made you even start to delve into politics in the first place? Like if there was one thing, or maybe if it was a gradual shift, what made you take that step to even start getting involved in your local politics in the first place, even before you decided to run?
So I've always just been like a quiet watcher, right? I've always paid attention, but I didn't really like act on it. But it was during the Trump era when I really wanted to get involved, because I felt like there was a lot of lies being told about conservatives and values. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not a racist white supremacist. I am not what they're saying that I am. So I actually hopped on Twitter. I didn't tell my friends, family, my coworkers, nothing. I started with 0 people on Twitter. And I just wanted to have a voice and say what I wanted to without, censor myself. Yes, they do censor, but like when I say censor, it's because of people I knew personally. And yes. So I went on there and I was saying whatever I wanted to say, and it went from 0 to 60,000 before the purge. So then now it's at 40. But yeah, so, and then I was looking for like-minded people. I want to hang out with people who weren't telling me that all these weird things that didn't make sense, like the pronouns and the calling Trump racist, and anyone who supported him was a racist. Like I feel like I couldn't tell people that I supported him because they were like, well, what's wrong with you? Are you dumb? Like, why would you support a racist man? And I'm like, but he's not. So I really got involved. I started leading these groups. I made a lot of friends. That's another reason why this campaign is going to be doing really well, because I actually have people out there helping and looking out. And you know what? On Twitter too, it's like, oh, it's online, it's Twitter. But like, I've built relationships with these people. It's like when they're purging people, that hurt, because like if we didn't like make connections with outside of Twitter before that, then we're not talking anymore. I don't know how to get back a hold of them anymore. So we get on Zoom sometimes with a group of my friends, probably about 20, 30 people from Twitter, and we get on Zoom and just talk. They have their kids come on, they have their dogs or wives and husbands on there, and we have a good time and talk. It's just so great to actually feel like I'm not crazy for being conservative, because honestly, it was common sense for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, and as somebody who grew up in a more blue area, and I live in a blue area now, I can see what you mean, because sometimes you want to say something, but you don't know how they're going to take it. And especially with the way our political discourse is right now, people will get very upset. I mean, not everybody. And I think a lot of times because I know I've done it, we tend to over exaggerate how bad it is. But I think even when we do that, it's still pretty bad. But I've seen people have, normal conversations as well. So you mentioned that you grew up conservative. So you don't have like a red pilling story. It sounds like you were already red pilled in a sense.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Was it from your parents or from your community, or what made you a conservative?
I'm very much so a very heavy self-educator. So I've always loved to read. I love reading. I love history. I love learning about government. All those things matter to me because it has to do with my freedom. Like I said, I was working since I was 16, so that all these things affect me. So I read the Bible at a very young age, and we didn't go to church growing up. So I would just read the Bible front to back multiple times. One of my birthday gifts was a comic book Bible. And yes, and so I read that multiple times. And so I believe a lot of the reasons why my conservative values are the way they are is because of that. And I do have, my birth mom was not really in my life growing up. And so I have my dad and my stepmom, but my stepmom's been my mom since like I was 5. And so I've had a 2-parent household. They really have conservative values, but they're not. My dad is an independent, my mom is liberal, but they have conservative values. I don't understand why they're not conservative, but but I grew up like that. And by the way, you know how like people say the N-word and stuff? That was growing up, that was a cuss word. You were not allowed to say that growing up in my household.
So even with the A and not the hard R?
Neither one. Nope. They heard you singing a song and you said the word, you get your own punishment.
I can relate to that, because when I was young, I couldn't even listen to that music. My mom wouldn't let me listen to rap or hip hop. It wasn't until I became an older kid. My first CD was Crisscross. I could listen to that, but I
Make
couldn't.
it jump, jump.
That's right. We commenced to make you jump. Yeah,
Jump, jump.
that was my jam. That's still my jam. I might listen to that after this, but but it's funny. I wasn't even allowed to watch hood movies. Like, I've never seen Menace to Society or any of those. I know I need to revoke my black card for that, but it wasn't my fault. My mom wouldn't let me watch it, so I need to rectify that.
I wasn't allowed to watch that stuff either. Honestly, like nowadays when I listen to those old songs, I actually listen to the edited version. So like that one song, oh my gosh, I don't want to take up all your time. There was a song and I did not know what it meant until I got older because I heard all the words. When I think of it, I'll remind you.
Okay. Yeah, there's probably like a bunch of those types of songs, but I really, because I heard you talk about this on another interview about Esther. I want to talk about Esther. What, and you mentioned, she risked her life to save her people, but I kind of I would like to know what it is about her story specifically that inspires you.
So basically, her husband did not know that she was Jewish, and so her people were going to be assassinated, or killed off. And so at first she didn't know what was going on. And her, I believe it was her uncle who came and talked to her and was like telling her what's going on. But at that time with the king, if you were not invited to speak and he didn't, extend his staff, then that's you risking your life. So for me, I guess going and running for office, like I get slandered. People attack me, they'll say mean, cruel things. I've had quite a few rumors made about me already. And assassinate my character. They could go after my family. You can do any of these things. And I didn't realize Arlington, Texas had such a huge establishment until I started running for office. And I think I should have realized that beforehand with, the stadiums and all that here. But I think it's amazing because she was a woman and she did that. And there's times that women need to stand up and lead and do things like that. Because she could have been like, you know what, if I go see him, he might kill me. But she was like, no, I care about my family, I care about my people, and I'm going to go do this. And the fact that the king loved her so much, he received her so well, and they were able to save their people, and people who wanted to kill them, they were killed. So, and at one point I was like, wait, are y'all going to stop killing at one point? I mean, y'all still killing people. But I mean, we're at a war, it's a spiritual war. And this is what I'm going to take on. And I do not want to defy God. He's done so much for me. He gave me my platform. He gave my voice. I am not indoctrinated and I need to pay it forward. And I really, truly believe that I can unite people. Regardless, I'm called the Don, but I've talked to people who are on the left and the right. I find that we have a lot more in common than we think we do. The media just divides us. People want to be like, oh my gosh, it's exciting. You're a woman, you're Black, you're running for, mayor. But I'd say it's not about that. It's about what I'm trying to do. We can limit government. We can stop the spending. We spend less money on taxes. Everyone will have more of an equal opportunity to succeed. And the actual problem is the big government. It's not us. They just use that stuff to divide us. And I feel like my voice and what I do can help do that for us.
Gotcha. So, I mean, in Esther, I always thought that was very empowering. It's a very empowering story. I also like it because my middle name was her cousin, it was her cousin, not her uncle, that inspired her.
It was her cousin. Okay.
Yeah, Mordecai. That's my middle name, so I've always loved it. But,
Mordecai.
Yeah, that's right. I used to hate that name until I got older, when I really realized who that person was. But I think, and when you bring up the fact that we're in a spiritual battle and that the media and the other powers that be are working to divide us, regardless of how your election turns out, what would you be doing to promote unity? Because Joe Biden talks about unity, and I'm asking this as somebody who doesn't really think it's the government's place to promote unity, but individuals can, regardless of whether they're in the government or not. So how do you think that somebody like yourself should promote more unity, even if you're not promoting agreement with everything?
Right. Now, I'm not saying there should be like policies put in place. And actually coming up with this unity thing, it wasn't like initially like what I'm not running on unity necessarily, but I realized after talking with so many people with different backgrounds, I had a chick who's like, I'm ratchet, you know, and she's like, I'm not really into politics, but I vote, but I'm voting for you, girl, because I believe in what you're trying to do. And, you know, I have all kinds of different people with backgrounds, and they may have even voted for Biden, but they're like, they like me, and they see that I'm human, and I will listen, and I will actually represent them. Some people were kind of like, I don't know, you're Black. This is Black people. These are Black people. It's been too many Black people who lied to us, and that's big. And another thing is, I ask everybody if they're registered to vote. Everyone. So when I ask a Black person, they're like, "What are you trying to say?" I'm like, "That's really funny that you say that, because the left is saying it. We're too dumb to get IDs to go vote." And it's just like, people really, we have a lot more in common. And then with this whole pandemic and people saying which businesses were essential or not, which businesses do you think a lot of the Black people were affected? A lot.
Exactly.
And so it's just, we have common grounds. We have to focus on the common grounds and tackle those issues together. And I think that unity will come by limiting the government and really making it easier for businesses to come here, start here, and stay here.
Gotcha. Okay. And what is the demographic makeup of Arlington? If you don't know the numbers off the top of your head, just give me an idea.
I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but it's a lot of white people here. I actually thought that it would be more Black people, because I see Black people here all the time. Right. But I don't know if they're not filling out the census or what it is, but the Black population is not that high. I think it's like 14%.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's white, Hispanic, and then it goes down from there.
Wow, so that's more than Austin, because in Austin I think it's only like 7 or 8%. So that's interesting. Mm-hmm. So you were involved in political groups, obviously involved in your community. You decided to run for mayor. I mean, and I know you were inspired by the Book of Esther, but can you explain to me that one moment where you just said, "Yeah, I'm running for mayor"?
Well, one thing is, I looked at the candidates. And I was actually kind of looking to see who I could help out too, in the same token, but I didn't see anyone that wanted to, support. And I realized that this is a nonpartisan race, so it's a little hard to figure out where people stand. They can use certain talking points to make them seem independent, whether they're really not, because you are who you are. You've donated to who you donate to, you vote for who you vote for. And I'm like, I'm sitting here been waiting for someone to do certain things for us in our community, but I know that what I'll do is exactly what the people need and give the people their power back. And I can't be influenced and be bought. We have our numbers that came out for our spending. Let me see here. Let me tell you about that right quick. So we have a chart that came out, and it's about our spending. We have to do that. There's 2 dudes who have a whole lot of money. One has spent $181,000 so far in the mayor race. The other guy is $22,000 some dollars in the mayor race. They're considered establishment, apparently. I'm gonna say Jim Ross is definitely establishment. The other guy, he used to be on council a while ago, but he's kind of quiet. He doesn't really stand out to me, but he's raised $22,000. And these people have been campaigning since November, and I started campaigning, made it public in February 4th. So everyone else on this ticket, I'm close to what they've raised, around $5,000-6,000 some dollars and spent on our campaigns. And I started late. So my thing is, I look at it this way too. If you're spending a lot of money, you're most likely probably gonna spend a lot of money if you're in that position. You're spending $181,000 to become mayor. I mean, I know it can be really expensive to run for office, but we gotta get creative and find different ways to cut spending. So if you're not doing that in your campaign, then how are you gonna do when you're in office?
Oh, that's an interesting point. So when it comes to the more establishment figures, I mean, if you don't have that level of spending power, well, what are you doing to differentiate yourself from them?
Boots on the ground.
What do you think that they're doing? Boots on the ground? Okay.
Boots on the ground. I'm doing events. My platforms do help a lot. And being able to talk to people like you guys, and people can see who I am, who are local, like, let me help you out. The groups that I have already have been very helpful. I do events, I go to different businesses, I talk to people, I pass out my cards, and I've gotten to a point now where people are recognizing me, and they say, Doni? I'm like, yeah. They're like, you're running for mayor. I support you. You get my vote. I'm like, well, how did you find out about me? It's a lot of word of mouth. People really like build that relationship and really like you, and they're telling everyone else to go vote for you. And these people don't even vote in local elections. They didn't even know there was one. Like 80% of people I talked to didn't even know there's a local election until I talked to them.
Wow.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of heavy work and lifting, getting this word out and everything. And I'm trying to find more ways to get the word out. I'll be, I keep telling people I'll be on Blaze TV on Friday. It's not Friday. It's the 13th. It's on Tuesday. I'll be on Pat Gray's show. So like doing these things right here will help as well.
That is good. I mean, it's important to get that exposure. Now, one thing I did want to talk to you about, and I know you mentioned that you're not putting all your talking points up front right now, but one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you is because I see a lot of candidates. I've spoken with a lot of candidates. I mean, that's how I know that, don't always put all of your stuff up front, but you, I think, are so far the only one that's doing this race or this type of race that's actually talked about policy. Like I went to your website and I see you have a short video for each objective that you want to achieve. You're not, laying out all the nuts and bolts yet, but I know that you want to decrease regulations. I know that you want to make it easier for business owners to stay in the community and to thrive there. So when it comes to certain policies, I mean, I saw a lot on your website, but what are your top 3 policy priorities when you win?
My number one is deregulating for residents and businesses. When I say I'm a conservative, I feel like I'm a conservative constitutionalist. And I feel like our rights have been infringed upon. The COVID has really shown that. The government had zero business telling you to open or close your business or what capacity we open. They told the businesses, we don't trust you to operate. But yet Walmart's in there open and everyone gets to go there and people are losing their businesses and everything. And like things like, oh, if you want to change your door or window, you shouldn't have to get permit from the government to do that. It's your house, that's your property. That's my biggest thing. I want to go and deregulate as much as I can. The other piece, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask, so what are some of the regulations in Arlington that you just want to get rid of?
I'm gonna do some really simple one. If you want to go door to door, you have to have a license in order to do that. And if people don't want you there, you can put a no soliciting sign on your door. But in order for you to be able to go door to door sales, you have to have a license in order to do that. But it's kind of funny that people who put that in place go door to door and ask you to vote for them. Another thing, if you want to have a home-based business, then you have to modify your home according to how the government tells you to do it. You can only have one employee in there at a time. It's pretty regulated. And also too, there's a thing, B2B is a big thing, right? Everyone talks about B2Bs, right? Not B2B, Airbnb.
Oh, Airbnb. See, that's that sales talk, B2B sales.
Yeah.
That's my background too. So.
Okay. So they have an issue with short-term leasing. That's Airbnb. And we have an entertainment district, the Texas Live, Cowboys, Rangers. So like if you want to have Airbnb at your house, you can't because the government says you can't. And there's citizens who don't want it because they don't want it in their neighborhoods, but it can be done effectively. And then that's, you shouldn't be telling people what they can and can't do with their homes. If we live in an entertainment district and you want to use your home to make money off of it, you're not there, you're going to rent a room out, you should be able to do that. The government shouldn't tell you can't. Wow. That's a big discussion in this election.
Yeah, those are some really intrusive regulations. I didn't know it was that bad. So, I mean, has the city's government mostly leaned towards the left? I know they don't have official parties because, everybody's nonpartisan supposedly, but have they always leaned to the left, or do we have conservatives putting this into place too?
Our current mayor, by the way, we have term limits now, so he can't run again. So they put term limits in place, in my opinion, so he couldn't run again. That Jim Ross guy I was just telling you about, that's the guy who he endorsed. That's the one with $181,000. So it's really strange. But Jeff Williams is a Republican. He wrote to Abbott asking him to mandate masks. He went begging Biden for money because we're shut down. We have a whole new Texas Ranger Stadium that wasn't used or built any money because everything was shut down during COVID, so they didn't make any money. So I don't really understand the difference between the Republican and the liberals right now. So, but there are some conservatives that are on the council. But I feel like the decisions have been made seem very left.
Yeah, it sounds like that to me. Now that Abbott has removed the mask order, is Arlington still requiring masks?
Arlington's not, but Abbott also lets it open for businesses to decide. So there's some businesses who decided to keep mandating masks. And at first I was like, you know what? Okay, let the businesses decide. And then the consumers will decide if they want to go there or not. But like if every grocery store is mandating masks, you kind of really don't have a choice. That's the private, kind of like social media, private companies infringing on your rights. What if they one day want you to cover your whole face and your whole head and everything, like in order to go grocery shopping? There has to be some point here where your people's rights are not being infringed on.
Yeah, I mean, it does become more sticky because then you're also wrestling with, freedom of association, who you want to have in your business and who you don't, and between that and people who don't want to wear masks. So that is tough. I mean, I know that at other places in Texas, there are some businesses who aren't requiring it and some businesses that are. So I guess it's really just going to depend on, what your city decides as far as your businesses go. But other than the regulations, what other type of policy objectives would you have that are priority?
My next one is safety. There is no defunding the police, that whole narrative. It's none of that. I want to make sure we have skilled professionals in our police department, fire department. They have the resources they need to operate. This city is about 400,000 people. So taking money away, not a best idea, but looking at how it's being spent. So if we can actually save money on certain things we spent and then give them more resources because we save money here, that's what I would want to do. Other pieces on safety is the whole COVID thing. They're using the stadiums right now to give vaccines, as if vaccines are the only option for COVID. And our leaders that I've seen haven't said anything about hydroxychloroquine and how that's actually doctors actually came out and said they've cured 300 or so people with it, and it was censored. So at an early stage. And so I feel like if we really were looking out for people's health, then why wasn't that an option? Why don't we have a section for people to choose to go with that route or the vaccine? And with the mask being open, the box for the disposable mask said it does not protect you against COVID. And some of these masks say no PPE. So then why are you requiring people to wear them if they're really looking out for their health? So that, for me, it's I really want people to be healthy and safe. So I want them to have the facts and the other options. Because when you're a doctor, you can go get a second opinion. You don't have to have one.
Yeah. So that is interesting because they are only suggesting one solution. And whether somebody agrees with that solution or not, I mean, people should have the option that's there. I mean, if they do want to choose a different option, then that's their prerogative. So would you say make that available through the government, or would you just allow it to be offered, or how would the mayor be involved in that?
Well, that's the one piece about my free speech and transparency. Transparent to letting people know there is other options out there, what they can do and choose, because a lot of people don't even know what it is. It was censored. They never even heard of it. As soon as those doctors were on the steps and talking about it, it was removed. And then they put these signs on it telling people that it's dangerous and it kills people. And that's not necessarily true. So the transparency here in Arlington needs to be I'm not going to let the media govern Arlington, Texas. They need to know all the facts and the truths and have their options, and let the people decide how they want to go about it.
Yeah. And it is very hard. I mean, because I was watching a broadcast last night and they couldn't even, they had a code word for that medicine. I probably shouldn't even say it either, but I already did, or you did, that's okay. But they have to use code words to even talk about it. So the censorship is an issue. And that is actually something you brought up on as far as your platform. I mean, censorship on college campuses and other areas. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
So in Arlington, Texas, I have zero tolerance. I will have zero tolerance for censoring people. If like a Steven Crowder wants to come to UTA and have a discussion, he shouldn't be bullied off campus and can't talk. If someone on the side I don't agree with, they shouldn't be bullied off either. I mean, when I'm fighting for your freedom of speech and your rights to be able to say what you have to say, I'm fighting for your right to do that. And the thing with the left is they try to shut people off and down, but the right, they're not trying to do that. They're just wanting to be able to speak. And it's like only one-sided. And then I really want things to just be able to people to really see it, because I feel like, Arlington does post a lot of the information they have. Man, I feel like my video got dark. But I want people to be able to, be able to say what they want to, be able to be able, you can offend people, yes, but like it's actually a God-given right. Like that's like why people they try to blame God when everything goes wrong, and I'm like, well, he did give us the right to choose, so they're gonna always be evil. You have to choose to do right and do wrong. So, and then at the end of the day, if people don't like what you have to say, they're not gonna listen to you. They don't agree with you, they're not gonna listen to you. But you should have the right to do that.
So how, from what you've seen, how much of an issue has that been in your city? I mean, are there people trying to use censorship, or is there like a movement to stop people from speaking on campuses there? Or
there has been a few instances when people can't say certain people couldn't do things at UTA. And I've noticed like there's different groups on these campuses that are like shutting down the conservative people. Also too, like say if the Hodge twins want to come to do a comedy skit, like there's certain places that weren't letting them, they couldn't do their tour. They had to find places that will let them speak. And they'll always be welcomed Arlington, Texas when I'm here. Honestly, there should be consequences for people. That's why I want to push. There should be consequences for people censoring people. So you want to censor someone, it's going to cost you.
and again, I know you can't put all your talking points up front, so you can shut me down if you can't answer this. But I mean, how would you hold them accountable if they do start to use censorship specifically on campuses?
Well, the campuses are public schools, so they're not private schools. So I can't necessarily say I would fine them, but we would need to have that discussion when they stop doing that. I don't know. I'm not for sure exactly how I can do it quite yet with UTA and getting that to go the way it needs to go. But it's just, I just don't want, if I fine them, that means it's the city still. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, that's just a rule. You can't do it. Like make it into policy that you cannot do that.
Gotcha. Yeah, because or anything. So, and I definitely know where. Yeah.
If it's a private, like a comedy club, and they're doing it, they can get fined. Like but like the university, it's like you need to follow the rules. Like this is the city's rules.
Gotcha. Well, so what would you say? I mean, because if you're talking about private businesses, a lot of them are going to say, what if I just don't want to be associated that in my restaurant or in my bar or things like that? Are you talking about taking action against them, or is this mostly focus on the campus?
No, this is in general. Like, so the campus, like I said, like some people like to go and speak. They have different speakers who come and do different events at the campuses. But if you're only letting one side come and speak and not the other one, that's not going to be tolerated. But say if you're an improv and you're kind of trying to do the same thing where people can't, like college twins can't get a gig in the city, we can't do that.
Okay. That'll be a very interesting battle to watch. I definitely will. Because especially even on the right, there's always that philosophical idea, like, can you force a business to do this? or can a business be able to only represent one side? Yeah, that'll be very interesting to see. But
it would be, and it would seem tough because, being able to choose and do your business at the same time, but at the same time, that's discrimination. You're discriminating them on what they want to say because of their personal beliefs. So if you guys can sit there and sue a Christian bakery for not making a gay couple a cake, then someone else can be able to sue you for discriminating against them because they're conservatives.
Gotcha. So when you're talking to voters in your city and you're having these conversations, I mean, what are the main issues that they're bringing up to you that they feel need to be solved?
Number one, taxes. They want the property taxes. So they say the rate's not going up, but what they're doing is, which is also something that has to be discussed at the county level. So we have to have the discussion at county level. Their appraisers are appraising houses for really high value. So you're going to be paying more in taxes. So your taxes are going up. So people want their taxes to be lowered. Another issue is since these stadiums have been built and the COVID hit, how are we going to make sure that we get back up on our feet again? And my biggest thing is, I've been saying this from the beginning before Abbott even opened everything back up, is if we want to get us back on our feet, we have to open. You can't sit at home and not work and then expect to get money to pay your bills. So we need to be open and fully operating in order to do that. By the way, if I'm mayor, I will never advocate to shut down or mandate any of those things because that's not good for the economy. It's not good for people, not good for people mentally to do those things. The other thing is when you're deregulating and you are making it easier for business to come here and everything, and it's more cost effective, they're going to want to come here, which is going to bring more money to the city. Why do you think so many people are moving to Florida and Texas? Because they want the deregulations. They want to pay all the fees and taxes, and that's just going to attract more businesses. So I made a post earlier saying, why does Texas and Florida, why do people moving here? But I also say is, okay, we have Texas, they're moving here, but I want Arlington, Texas to be the destination and top choice to come here, because they're like, you know what? There's Dallas, there's Houston, there's Austin, okay, but Arlington makes it easy to start businesses. They don't have a lot of regulations. It's cheaper to start here. And honestly, we have a lot of vacancies in our commercial buildings. So once we start filling those up, they'll bring more money into the city.
So, yeah, I mean, because it's here in Austin. I mean, there's a lot of businesses moving here. I mean, we've got Oracle, Samsung, Apple, and a bunch of others. The list goes on and on and on. This is happening more and more in Texas. So it does make sense that a city like Arlington might want to become part of that. What about concerns, say, over, if that happens, what about concerns over issues like, say, gentrification or people not being able to stay in the community that they grew up in? Because that's something that we're kind of battling down here in Austin.
So are you referring to, like, say the city wants to develop in a certain area and someone has to move, or what do you mean?
Yeah, because the property values go up, property taxes go up, like you were talking about before. A lot of whites, blacks, and Hispanics who aren't as affluent end up having to move out of the communities that they grew up in. How would you address a situation like that, or maybe prevent something like that from happening in Arlington?
Well, one, you have to really go and talk to the county, because they're one of the reasons why the taxes, part of the reason why the taxes are going up, and discuss this with them, because I get that, because I moved out of certain areas because it started getting too expensive to live there. But we're lowering taxes and we're working on them not appraising stuff at market value in order to take your money, then it'll be more affordable for people. Because someone actually asked me about affordable housing, and I said we can have affordable housing for everybody if we bring down the cost of living. Because the cost of living that our sales tax, people actually apparently voted to increase our sales tax in the last election. Yeah, because it was during November. The less informed voters were voting, and they voted to raise the sales tax, and they thought that, I think it was because people just think it's 0.825%, period, but it wasn't even that high yet. So people voted to increase it. So we make it more affordable to live here. We won't have to worry about people leaving, and so they can be able to stay in their neighborhoods. But when you're increasing their property values like that, and then the taxes are just out of this world, people are going to leave. So I'm wanting the people to stay, and if we can lower those taxes, make it to where we're not, manipulating property value, so that you can get more people's money. We can do that.
Gotcha. That's also one of the reasons why people are leaving California. The taxes are too high. Everything is too high. So, gotcha. All right. So we're pretty much getting to where we're going to wind it down here. But was there anything that I didn't bring up that you want to talk about?
So I'll go ahead and do the scoop. So I went downtown and I talked to some businesses, and apparently other candidates have not talked to these certain businesses. Different managers or owners, and I learned something. When you go talk to people, you actually really learn what they're looking for. So it's not just talking points. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest issues they're having right now is staffing. Because of these stimulus checks, people are not wanting to come to work, and the unemployment. People will fill out the applications and then not come. They just want to look like they're looking for a job. And so they're understaffed, which messes with the service level these places are able to produce. And people are going out and doing these things now because things are open. That's a big issue. And for me, in order to help them, is like, you got to get out the word that these people are hiring, because people are looking for jobs. Now we just say no and direct them where to go. And I can use my platform to do that, to get that word out. But yeah, they're having a hard time finding good people to work in staff hours. But and then another issue with that is, if you only have a few people working, you're going to stretch them thin. And then they might be like, well, I might as well just go home and not work too.
Right. Or try to find something else. So is the issue that people just don't know that these places are hiring, or is it because of the stimulus checks? Because those can only last but so long.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue is getting the free money.
Gotcha. Well, hopefully that resolves itself, because like I said, that money won't stretch forever. But if you still have, Uncle Joe and everybody else trying to have everybody stay shut down, then it'll come around again. They'll send out more money, and it'll hurt businesses even more. So that's interesting, because a lot of people think of the lockdowns when it comes to things that are hurting the businesses. Mm-hmm. But if it's also incentivizing people to not work, that is also hurting the businesses too. So that's it's a very interesting point. Definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely have to have you back on again. We talked about going live later on, but tell everybody where they can find you.
You guys can find me at doniformayor.com, DoniForMayor.com. Doni for Mayor on Twitter, Doni the Don on Twitter, Doni the Don on Gab. Actually, pretty much any platform is Doni the Don. You can find me. I'm on Facebook. My page is Doni for Mayor as well. And on YouTube, it's Doni Anthony for Mayor. Okay,
cool. And on your website, they can figure out, it's pretty easy to find where they can donate and all that good stuff.
Yeah, when you first go on there, it's a big button on top above my face.
All right, that's pretty easy. Well, thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.